viewers. Well, this video is primarily a visual study of the geothermal activity happening at the southern end of the Salton Sea, more specifically the new Mudpots at the southern end of the Salton Sea. I thought it prudent to briefly mention a few populated areas in this region that will give some insight as to how truly unique this location is. Beautiful, interesting, and full of the unfamiliar. These are words used to describe the Imperial Valley of sunny Southern California. I've read somewhere that if you're eating vegetables like broccoli and carrots during the winter season in the United States, it's likely that they have come from the farms in and around the Imperial Valley. This low-lying desert area is now home to around 500,000 acres of farmlands thanks to the hundreds of miles of irrigation channels that were dug, then filled with water from the Colorado River. In 1905, however, due to a flooding Colorado River and miscalculations in engineering, water breached the channels and began flowing into the low-lying Salton Trough, or the Salton Sink, which filled and created the Salton Sea. We'll talk more about the Salton Sea in a minute, but for now I'd like to give honorable mention to three particularly curious and interesting populated areas that form near the sea. The first and most popular inhabited area of note is Slab City. Slab City is a former World War II Marine base called Camp Dunlap, which was abandoned and only left the concrete slabs of the buildings behind. Ever since it was abandoned, folks have been coming to the slabs as an alternate way to live compared to traditional society. I find it ironic that California, which is widely held as the most heavily regulated and governed state, has a community dubbed the last free place. It's called that partially because it's being free to set up camp and live there without the government running you off, but it's also largely free of the heavy burden of societal norms which allow folks to pursue life in a manner that they see fit. Now, one excellent example I saw of someone pursuing this free life was when I saw a guy riding down the street on a unicycle, some kind of electric unicycle, wearing a gorilla suit and a tutu. This guy was firmly in pursuit of the free life. Here I got a photo of it. It was like seeing Bigfoot. He was there for a minute, then he was gone. That's the only photo I got. Most camps in the slabs consist of an RV dressed with a variety of accoutrements such as car tire fences or an arbor made of pallets. And of course, many camps are decorated with the ironic "No Trespassing" sign. While enjoying the freedoms that Slab City uniquely offers, you can imagine the difficulties of living in a hot, low-desert area where there is no running water and no public electricity. While the community lacks utilities, it wants for nothing where culture is concerned. Aside from the many sculptures and displays created by the inhabitants that can be seen throughout the dirt roads of the slabs, the community also boasts an art gallery called East Jesus that displays an ever-evolving collection of sculpture made entirely of trash and recycled material. The crown jewel of the slabs, however, is Salvation Mountain. This mountain that greets you on the way into Slab City is one man's tribute to his god with the recurring theme of love seen throughout the paint-covered mountain. The mountain is truly unique in the world in both execution and location and is, in my opinion, definitely worth a visit. One last bit of culture to mention that Slab City offers is the Range. If you're lucky enough to be in Slab City on a Saturday night, the Range is a local entertainment venue hosting what seems to be like local musical talent, as well as offering an open mic to anyone who might want to share their talent. An open-air arrangement coupled with the natural vibe of the slabs and the geographic isolation of the area are all elements that converge to make this venue uniquely unfamiliar and thoroughly enjoyable.
Learn to swim, learn to swim, learn to swim, and I'm praying for rain, and I'm praying for tidal waves. I want to see the ground give way. I want to watch it all go down.
The second area of mention is Bombay Beach. Bombay Beach is a former resort town on the southeastern shore of the Salton Sea. This remarkable community greets you with billboards calling it the last resort, showing images of recreation in the nearby area from back in its heyday. Bombay Beach was a thriving resort community on the Salton Sea until rising salinity levels of the sea, as well as other issues, combined to make the area, let's say, less desirable. Now, With a population of about 200 to 300 people, my guess is that the lots are about 1/3 full with residents living in their homes, and the other 2/3 are empty lots or lots having buildings that were previously abandoned and have been bought up and repurposed by some clever artists. Currently, there's a slow revitalization happening in Bombay in the form of a variety of art installations being created. Some of it is sculpture, either on the beach or in the town. Some of it is the repurposing of abandoned buildings, such as the creation of the Dead Sea Scroll exhibit or the Natural History Museum. Some of it I can't put a finger on, but I'm sure there's a category for it. Either way, it is something to see, and although I've never attended, there's an arts festival called the Bombay Beach Biennale, I think that's how you pronounce it, that I hear is held annually and brings folks in from far and wide. This community is truly unique, and I look forward to the progress that it will make going forward. The last area I would like to mention that would help illustrate the uniqueness of the Salton Sea area of Southern California is the city of Calipatria. There are probably a lot more highlights to mention about this city as I'm not familiar with it, but I thought the following 2 points were interesting enough to give Calipatria an honorable mention. Calipatria is a city at the southern end of the Salton Sea that is about 8 miles from the Mudpots that we will be seeing in a moment. At the 2010 census, Calipatria had a population of around 7,800 residents. Within the city limits of Calipatria is the notorious Calipatria State Prison, an all-men's level 4 prison that at the time of the 2010 census housed 4,164 inmates. If you scratch out that math, you'll find over half of the population of Calipatria, a full 54% in fact, was institutionalized. And you thought your town was bad. The second point of note is that Calipatria is the city with the lowest elevation in the Western Hemisphere. It sits at 180 feet below sea level. The city has erected a 184-foot flagpole to give reference to the level of the sea above the city. I've read that the extra 4 feet of the flagpole is so that the flag itself can fly above sea level. So all this brings us to a closer understanding of the Salton Sea and the surrounding area. It truly is a beautiful place. However, it has its faults. Most popular among them is the San Andreas Fault that runs right along the eastern side of the Salton Sea, about directly below the road that is being driven on in the video clip you are watching now. As you can see from this fault map from the California Geological Survey, the area is plagued with faults and seismic zones. These faults, the fact that the Salton Sea is about 235 feet below sea level, and the water that used to not be there all contribute to the existence of the new mudpots we will be seeing in a moment. The old mudpots are more of mud volcanoes that are in a field adjacent to one of the dozen or so geothermal plants that are dotted along the southern end of the sea. Speaking of volcanoes, you will see the remnants of one in the video called Mullet Island, which I thought was interesting. A few other interesting bits to look out for in the video are areas where carbon dioxide is bubbling up and not mud, parts where you can see abandoned mudpot vents, parts where you will see water not mixing together, and then just the general behavior and variety of the birds is interesting to observe. Feel free to leave a comment below or a like, and I hope you enjoy.